Boom, back again, back in the room. Couple of things to talk about in today's video. We'll be talking the US card, or a couple of the US cards of the fights that happened on the weekend that we didn't get to talk about last time, and also a fight I missed off of the Fabio Wardley and Frazier card, and I did on accident, but it's kind of for a reason, because I want to kind of get a bit more in depth in it today. That is the Alen Babic versus Stephen Robinson card. Yeah, or sorry, fight, not card. Yeah, we need to talk about that. That's going to have some footage in this one as well. In terms of the US cards, we're going to be talking Zurdo versus Guillermo Marion, the cruiserweight title holder, which is it's really, really good for Zurdo. He's moved up. I believe 3 weight classes he's fought in now. He's going to be hopefully a world champion in this, or he's a world champion in this weight class. But yeah, hopefully he gets to unify against some of the other big punchers in there. We're talking Rolly Romero versus Pitbull Cruz. We're talking a little bit of Tim Tszyu versus Fundora. Like, share, subscribe, comment below. You know the dealio. First thing to get into, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this one. Stephen Robinson versus Alen the Savage Babic. Now, Alen Babic is definitely a firm fan favorite because of how he fights. He comes forward, he's throwing with bad intentions. His whole thing is aggression, come forward style. You know, we all as boxing fans knew that he had a ceiling. We know it's not going to be a world beater in the heavyweight division, at least at any point in time. But he did try and go for the Bridgeweight title last year, and unfortunately came up short. He got knocked out in the first round, I believe, by Ryazanski, I believe is his name, in Poland. Now, the thing is, Savage is, you know, as much as I said, he's not going to be a world beater in the heavyweight scene. He still does have a level, and I think he can still bring some very exciting fights. Against this opponent, though, Stephen Robinson, this is kind of what worries me about boxers today, or not just today, in general. Like, it doesn't, obviously the pro boxing scene is a very hard scene, but it doesn't mean you have to be especially skilled as a boxer to be a pro. And this is why, you know, I'm going to release this video again, but I have the whole thing about boxing snobbery. Just because someone is in the boxing game or is a pro or has been a pro, it doesn't mean they know what they're doing. It doesn't mean they don't know what to talk about. Stephen Robinson's boxing skill is terrible, like absolutely terrible, but his heart and his chin, very, very, like, pretty amazing, pretty top tier. But that's going to be to his detriment, health-wise. And I feel like, you know, it was a bit of a sad sight. When I watched that fight, it was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I watched it back, I didn't watch it live. But I was thinking, like, his corner, when is corner gonna pull him out? You know, like, this guy was receiving punishment from Babic. At one point, he got hit with 3 overhand rights in a row, like, with no setup, just bam, 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 just took it on the chin. And for me, I'm like, if your fighter's getting hit with those type of big shots and doesn't have the boxing skill to at least try to do something about it, and is just relying on, my chin's gonna take it, then why do you have him in there? That's just brain damage waiting to happen, you know? I think as a corner, you know, I know he's got a big heart and he's not gonna want to give up himself, he's gonna want to go out on his shield, but his corner, I believe, should have stepped in there. You know, the ref stepped in at the right time. He was receiving punishment. And what worries me about stuff like this, not worries me, but it just gets me like, this is crazy. This is the heavyweight division. Like, that fight with Babic, he's not the biggest puncher in the world. He comes forward with some power and aggression, but he's not the biggest puncher in the heavyweight division. If Robinson was to go up against someone who's a really big up-and-coming puncher, that could be potentially life-changing, which I already think the punishment he's taken, I think it really is. I feel like this needs to stop. It's not, for me, exciting to watch. His boxing skill, it just isn't good enough for me to consider that a professional boxer. His heart and his chin, 100%, but, you know, like, at some point, it's going to be at a detriment to his health. I hope that he's okay. I do hope that, you know, he recovered well and there's no long-term damage. But that's how he fights all the time, and that's where it's a little bit worrying. Next up, let's talk about Tim Tszyu versus Fundora. Very, very interesting fight on this one. Now, it's PBC's, I believe it was their first fight on Amazon, it's called the pay-per-view card. Obviously, Keith Thurman dropped out due to an injury, and we have Fundora step in. I've never actually seen a full fight of Fundora's. I've seen him knock out when he got knocked out last year. He's a massive at the weight, 154, 6'6", and just long, but doesn't use his size. which is such a bizarre thing to see. Like, you know, you expect him to be on the jab and keep his opponent at range. And I feel like, you know, it's going to be his undoing. You know, this fight was quite close. It was nip and tuck. Some people do feel like Tim Tszyu was robbed. I think, yeah, it could be the argument he could have won it, but I feel like the right person deserved to win. It was a very bloody match. We had some bloody matches this past weekend. You know, the Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clark was just blood galore. And then this one was quite the same, just to the cut on Tim Tszyu's head. So it is a very interesting one that just both those type of situations have happened this weekend. Good fight nonetheless. Next up for Fundora, I hope I say his name right, by the way, is that we're looking at, you know, Errol Spence was there trying to get that fight in the ring, which is crazy because Terence Crawford was already calling for it from before the fight, and Errol Spence is now trying to jump the queue and isn't actually fighting Terence Crawford for the rematch. Wagwan there. Bit mad, innit? I would prefer to see Terence Crawford in that one. I don't really love Errol Spence's style. I love Terence Crawford's style and immediately became a fan of his, and I feel like that will be a great fight. I think Crawford will exploit the height and hurt the body. He'll exploit the height difference and, you know, take away what should be Fundora's strength and make it a weakness. Next up, we're going to talk about Rolly versus Cruz. Now, this was a crazy one. I don't rate Rolly. I think he's terrible. If I'm honest, I know a lot of people said he's got power. He's got a lot of power for his size, and he does. Something about his boxing style, his makeup just looks weird. But he does have power. But Cruz does as well. Hurt Rolly early, I believe, in the first round. Just kept coming forward like, I don't know, man. He was like a serial killer, just on him, or just like his name, a pit bull. Locked jaws and weren't playing about. And then he believe he stopped him in, I think it was the 7th round or the 6th round. Hurt him in the round before that, and then stopped him later on. The ref had to jump in, so it was a TKO. Very good fight. I think Pitbull is a good addition as a champion now in the 140 division. Next up on the card, we have Zurdo Ramirez versus Guillamarian. I don't know. People say it different ways, that's why I'm not being disrespectful. A very good fight, man. I only was able to catch the highlights of this one, but from the highlights, it just looked like a real good back and forth. But it looked like Zurdo's boxing skill was just kind of, it was too much for Guillamarian. I'm going to call him that. There we go. He was, you know, mixing the jab really well, head and body. You can see that Guillamarian did it already. You can see that Guillamarian was very physically strong. So Zurdo didn't stay in the pocket too much and didn't stay like standing and trading too much. But there was a couple of rounds where he did stand and trade, and it wasn't just stand and just take shots and throw back. He had good defense and good counter punching as well. Now he's a champion in the cruiserweight division, and that is a spicy one. I know a lot of people say it's boring. I don't think it's boring. I think it has been a bit lackluster, but with who is now my favorite fighter at the moment, Jai Opetaia. He's going to fight Marius Bradis on the Fury Usyk undercard. We're going to talk more about that in another video. A lot of British cruiserweights at the moment. Richard Riakporhe, Chris Billam-Smith, who is the champion at the world champion, in the UK. So we have some good fights there. So Zurdo's entering. I think it's at a good time because there's eyes on the division now. People are starting to look to the division and not just looking at it as a gateway to the heavyweights, which is what it has been in the past. But right about now, we're starting to look at the cruiserweights as a division in its own right. Like, I don't think most of these guys, I don't think they're going to move up to the heavyweight division. They just look way too small. Like, Zurdo's never going to go heavyweight. Maybe Bridger, that'll be too much even, I think. Zurdo will never go heavyweight. Badu Jack, you know, he could, but it would be very bad for him. That's the other champion. Jai Opetaia, don't think he should go heavyweight. He's quite a small cruiserweight. It would just be silly. But we'll do a separate video on the cruiserweights anyway, because I thought we got some very interesting matchups that happen in that weight division. What do you think of the boxing this weekend? What do you think of what I said about Alen Babic and Stephen Robinson? Do you agree? I mean, what do you think? Let me know, comment below. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and please hit that notification bell. Peace.